So now we have 616 in LA from Kendrick, which few more shots towards Drake. In addition to that, we have the illusion that, hey, does OVO work for me? Essentially implying that there's leaks in the Drake camp and that he's getting some information from people close to Drake and that a lot of people in OVO don't really like him. Right. So that's 616 in Los Angeles. We thought Euphoria was going to be the shot. Everybody was fine. And then we get 616 in LA Friday morning. Everybody's
Unbelievable.
right. And so now everybody's like, oh, okay. So Drake went back to back. Now Kendrick is going back to back. And I thought it was decent. Like I thought it was definitely a more hip hop, more underground feel to it. And I thought he got some good shots off. And it was still kind of friendly, in terms of not getting too personal. And everybody's talking about that. And obviously the debate is, does Drake wait until the weekend is over? Or does he respond on Friday so that Kendrick isn't dominating the weekend like he was dominating most of the week? And Drake finally responds Friday night with Family Matters, which was really well done because he had the visual set up and everything. He's filming in New Ho King, which Drake had mentioned with the owner. Got some really good bars off about Kendrick as well as some of the other people that he's currently beefing with. He threw some more shots towards Metro Boomin, threw some more shots towards Future, threw some shots back at Rick Ross finally. Essentially saying, side effect of Ozempic is being a hater, something like that. And I thought he landed some good shots at Kendrick. In addition, this new claim came out that Kendrick may have potentially had a domestic violence incident with his wife or baby mama. And so that was kind of explosive there. And we find out that his wife's name or baby mama's name is Whitney. And I thought that this is a really strong comeback. Everybody thought Drake was back. It was 3 different parts, right? 3 different beats. To me, the last 2 minutes were the strongest when he really went at Kendrick. The visuals, essentially him getting the van from Good Kid, Mad City, taking it to a landfill and crushing it, thereby symbolizing, hey, Kendrick, you're finished, right? And we're here sitting there for like 30 minutes, like, oh, Drake is back. How is Kendrick gonna respond? And not even 30 minutes after, didn't even let Drake get an hour, comes Meet the Grams.
Right.
Okay. And Meet the Grams, one of the most scathing disses I've heard in a while. Like just scathing. Everything we thought about Story of the Adidon in terms of you were hiding a child, and Pusha T essentially ridiculing Drake's parents and saying that because his dad is a deadbeat, he repeats a cycle. Now we have Kendrick essentially doubling down and being more vicious and adding on to it. Not only did Drake hide the first child, he's hiding a second child, a daughter this time, and potentially more baby mamas that he's not acknowledging. So a lot of people brought up the Certified Lover Boy cover where it's a bunch of pregnant women of all different ethnicities on the cover as maybe it's real life. And then also some pretty explosive accusations about pedophilia, essentially doubling down that currently there's a guy who's named Baca on the payroll that did get charged with human trafficking at some point. I don't know the status of that particular case. I just do know that he did indeed receive the charges of it. And so the fact that he's still on the payroll and Adonis is around him was a point of contention. It's essentially done as like letters to different people in Drake's camp, right? So it's first to Adonis saying, hey, I'm sorry that dude is your father. And I really wish your grandfather would have worn a condom.
Oh my gosh.
Really go after his character there. Then the second verse is to the parents, Like, you raised a horrible person. We blame him for the gambling addiction, the pill addiction, apparently the addiction to high class escorts that he's flying different places, also accusations of alcohol. And the last verse is to Aubrey and basically says, "Look, the only reason I'm going after your family is you went after mine. I told you not to go after the family." And I remember we'd always said, like, stay away from families. That always turns up the battle a notch, especially if you don't have the cleanest family situation. But Drake unfortunately did it again, and unfortunately, had to deal with the consequences of that. So we thought we were done, right? We thought we were done.
Right. Well, real quick,
Yeah.
because I'm loving the breakdown here. On some level, and you don't have to answer this right away, but is that a function of the lack of creativity and technical skill in the same way that Kendrick has, right? Because of that, in the last one we talked about, like, Drake isn't quite on that level in terms of wordsmithing, right? And I'm just wondering if the only choice that he had in this instance was to go after family, because that's kind of the low hanging fruit, and maybe he's just not capable of more than that. I don't know.
Well, no, I think you can go after whatever you want to. I don't think anybody thought Hit 'Em Up was super lyrical or super creative, but level of viciousness and effectiveness, like, hey, you're supposed to be this big player, but I got with your wife, et cetera. So I think it's not necessarily even the subject matter. It's just whatever subject matter you choose, make it interesting. Like, we either need to be saying, ooh, or ouch, or whoa, or ooh, or oh, that was a clever line. How he put that together, right? Like, you basically, Common uses all of Ice Cube's movies that he had started at the time to make fun of him, right? And so that was the thing. It wasn't that he got in about Ice Cube's family, but he kind of attacked Ice Cube's character using the names of movies that Ice Cube had done some song titles to. So now I'm not gonna say that it's because of Drake's weakness as a writer. And keep in mind, he notably usually has assistants in these cases, so you'd like to think there's a brain trust capable of different angles. But
that's true.
there's always a balance between the cleverness and the layering of the dishes, where people are like, oh, and the reason that it's this is it relates to this, right? We saw a lot of Euphoria. We saw some of that with even Family Matters. There was actually some messaging within Family Matters beyond just the van from Good City. I think the problem was we only had 30 minutes to digest it before we got hit with the most scathing, vicious, you went after my family, so I'm burning your entire family down. And it was just so vicious the way that it was. Right.
Well, and then to follow up a day later, right? With
yeah. So this is the thing. I think the one critique that people liked to lob at Kendrick was, hey, he doesn't make these club bangers. Drake makes club banger. Drake makes radio bangers. Like, Kendrick is all high art, which to me, Kendrick has done both, right? Kendrick has done cerebral concept records, and he's also done some club bangers. Like, let's not act like we weren't all dancing to, Humble, like, Love wasn't on the airwaves, like Loyalty with Rihanna. Like, he's done accessible records even before we get into All the Stars and the Black Panther joints with Weeknd, interestingly enough. So to me, it was just a critique for people that, I don't really want to focus on lyricism. I just want to be able to dance and maybe catch a diss or two. So Kendrick's like, fine, I got you. I'm going to get DJ Mustard, master of the West Coast club banger, sometimes in some cases worldwide club bangers. Like, he's had a lot of hits. And Mustard proceeds to, in my opinion, drop one of his best songs of the decade called Not Like Us. The cover is Drake's house with the sexual predator records on there. And it's really well executed because it's a club banger and it's catchy and there's plenty of times to chant and sing along. It's structured so amazingly well. And you're just into it, you're bouncing, and then all of a sudden, he says, trying to strike a chord, and it's probably a minor, and the beat switches up, and then it goes to the hook like, they not like us, they not like us. And now, you can see it because DJ is, at least on my timeline, we're tweeting out video of what happened when they dropped the song, how it hit in the clubs. People were doing videos to it, people dancing to it. You got Deshaun Jackson crip walking to it on TikTok.
Right.
Like, we're doing TikTok dances to it already. Like, it's an immediate bang. And, that's why you have to give Mustard his due. I know people criticize his simplicity, but to be simple but still commercial and effective and catchy and not be boring is a unique.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great banger. A lot of shots landed. We find out that for those of us who didn't know, Drake slept with Lil Wayne's girlfriend, maybe even allegedly fiance, while Lil Wayne is in prison.
Really?
And so he's like, one of the lines is fucking on Wayne's girl while he's in jail. That's conniving. Then you tattoo his face on your arm apologizing, which that's essentially what happened. Like, Drake goes to visit Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is in prison. He can't do anything. He's behind the plexiglass. Drake's like, oh yeah, when you get out, I wouldn't check on Tammy. That's why we get that line about Tammy at 6'7". Like, had my heart broke by a girl named Tammy, but hoes gonna be hoes, so I couldn't blame Tammy. Essentially, Tammy Torres, who I guess had a ring, maybe potentially, like either they were engaged or considered to be like a closer thing. And essentially Drake visits Wayne in jail and says, hey buddy, hope you're doing okay in there. I just want to let you know that we're holding your spot down, and I'm making sure I represent you everywhere I go. Thank you so much for signing me. And oh, by the way, I slept with Tammy. And should be good here. I'll see you next time, right? Like, obviously, it's a choice. I think where we came up and who we grew up around, we have a little bit different ethics. But if you got raised in like a Gossip Girl environment where that kind of thing is cutesy and everybody just blows over it, potentially comfortable with that. But that was a bad look for Drake. It is true. There's video of Wayne agreeing about this. And obviously, when we talk about doubling down on the pedophile thing, there is video out there for people who watch this, in terms of Drake being at a concert, I believe in Denver, brings a fan on stage. They interact like in a flirty way, which is fine. I think, that's standard fare at some of these concerts where a guy has a more female audience. But he finds out, mid-process that she's only 17. And so, he backs away at first, and we expect that to be the end of it. But then he proceeds to go on and almost double down and talk about how he likes the way she feels against him when he held her, and just says some things that maybe we would expect him not to say in public, given what the circumstances is. I'm not saying he should even say them ever. This is clearly, people got phones out. You found out she's 17. Most people would say, oh, wow, you need to get back in that audience till you're 18, girl. And then everybody have a laugh and be like, oh, okay, it was an innocent mistake. The fact that he just kept going is kind of why people are throwing these accusations about him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
remember, we talked about that in our relationships podcast a few weeks back about the precocious 7-year-old and whatnot. But I'm struck by we've never had diss records released at this rapid rate. Like, it's so fast, and I mean, that's a big part of the technology. I get it.
Fact.
We know how fast things can be made in this world, but it's still like you can't even keep up with it, really. It's like, it's amazing. And then the other part of it in terms of Kendrick is like his intentionality, like his covers, the Euphoria cover, Not Like Us. I mean, just really the intentionality, the A minor part that you talked about, like he is really, really quick on his feet, and is just I mean, he just bodied Drake in this, in my opinion, in this instance. I think that's the consensus. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial. But how many? I just looked it up. How many listens do you think Not Like Us has since it came out Saturday night?
Well, I don't know, but I heard it's the number one listened to track of all the diss records. I did hear that. I heard it's
Yeah,
number uh on YouTube, number one on
eight
Spotify.
8.2 million since Saturday night.
Is that
And
just on YouTube or is that
no,
also?
this is just on this is just on Spotify, but on YouTube, it's probably even more. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh no, it's not more. It's 2.6 million.
yeah.
Um,
I heard. Yeah, I did hear that. It was number one on Spotify streaming for that. So yeah. Do we want to talk about the Heart Part Six, or do we feel like that was a waste of everybody's time?
I mean, you might as
Because
well
Drake.
cover it. Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, before we get into who won, we do have to be fair to Drake in this battle because believe it or not, as fans, we just wanted to see a good battle. We're not in any way associated with either camp. Yes, I know people that have worked with both camps, but in no way am I or Gary getting money on one side or the other
Right.
to sway an opinion or feel like we have an allegiance, right? Like I think in order to be fair, so we don't have Drake Stan going crazy in the comments. The Heart Part 6 came out. Naming it The Heart Part 6 was clever because Kendrick has this Heart series and The Heart Part 5 actually did throw some shots at certain rappers. So The Heart Part 6, calling it that was I think a genius move. He uses a more hip hop beat. It's a little bit darker. Essentially, Drake's premise is, hey, all that information you thought you got, we planted it. We planned all this out. We wanted to trick you into thinking that I had a missing daughter. And then I couldn't tell if he is also saying, and we also tried to trick you into thinking I was a pedophile because mm, I don't know that I would, and I don't know if you have to bleep that or not, but essentially, like, why would you want that rumor out there about you, right? I don't think either one of us would say, hey, it'll be a genius move if we get him to accuse us of this or not, because once you hear somebody being accused of that, a lot of people don't play about that. Nobody, I'm not gonna say nobody thinks it's funny. I have heard some comedians make jokes about this, but what I would say is in this particular case, in a rap battle, the hip hop community in general doesn't make excuses for that actually being an acceptable behavior, right? Even in prison, there's a hierarchy of anybody who did that particular thing, usually at the bottom of the prison community, and they get abused accordingly because kids are still considered sacred even by serial killers and psychopaths and all that. So if indeed Drake did try to lead Kendrick in that direction, I don't see why that would be a smart move. I did see some conspiracies out there before he said it. Apparently he liked one of the tweets or the comments or whatever. But to me, it's not a good look. I would never want to leak that type of stuff to an opponent and have that out up there about the reputation, because you always run the risk of that. To me, the song wasn't good enough for people to listen to it as its own merits. Like Not Like Us. Like Not Like Us could potentially be a summer club banger, a summer banger. Like there's that much positive reaction. It's that viral already. And if you're not going to do your hit format, your usual hit format to where everybody's listening and they're all singing along, then you don't have that out there to be like, we led you astray. It's a weird concept in a battle to me. I don't know what you thought about that. But then the other part is he basically misinterpreted, I think it's like Mother Eyed Sorry or something like that, where essentially Kendrick is talking about how he had this interaction with his mom where his mom thought that he had been molested, but he hadn't. And the deep story behind it was that his mom had been molested, so she figured that this other person molested, because she was looking for the signs and she was interpreting that way. And Kendrick essentially said, no, I wasn't, but she was, and that's why she thought that I was. And Drake turned that around and said, the main reason you're accusing me of this is because you were molested. when that's not exactly what the song said on Mr. Morale and the Big Stepper. So that was a bad look there. And then also, I don't know in this day and time that it's cool to say, hey, you were molested and have that be part of the diss record and expect people to go, ooh, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know if you need to bleep that out as
Right.
well.
Well, that's
But
kind of what I'm saying about like the skill. Like I don't know. I get what you made a good point about that. It's about the content, and if it's interesting, it's interesting. I
yeah,
just don't think that is,
yeah.
an interesting thing. I will say like a lot of that, a lot of Drake's response in the Hard Part 6 is him defending himself and
Yeah,
reacting to stuff
yeah,
that Kendrick said. And I think in any debate, when you're that to me is backpedaling instead of like bringing up some new shit. So to
yeah,
me, it's just like, that's why it felt weaker to me. Just, I only listened to it once, twice, but like,
yeah.
it just feels weaker right off the bat because
Right.
he's bringing in he's responding to the A minor thing with a deep, like he's biting off of Kendrick using a musical metaphor. Like I think I pulled up the lyric again. He said like D flat, but you D major, whatever. So
Yeah.
the whole thing feels very reactive to me, and like
Hmm.
after, like he didn't really kind of know what else to say. So
Yes. I feel like he felt like he was defeated. I don't know if his writers were just stuck. Here's what I think happened behind the scenes. And this is no, I don't have any intel. This is just me, my limited experience, my limited connections, my powers of interpretation. I think he thought he was going to have at least a day, if not the weekend, for Family Matters to marinate. I think he thought that
I
that
think
was it.
so too. Yeah.
I think he thought, oh, he's going to need some time to regroup because I did the visuals, I did this. He's going to have to defend himself about the domestic violence accusation. Like I landed some shots, man. And when people see the video and the fact that I'm crushing the caravan from Good Kid, Mad City, oh, I'm going to be up all night. I won and not 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like he set this up perfectly. The problem was Kendrick was so well prepared that he didn't even get an hour for it to marinate. And the response was so scathing. And I think Drake probably might have had a response loaded to go. And it might even have been this response. The problem was he got hit on two fronts. He got hit with a absolute story of the Adidon type nuke. And then the next day, before everybody goes out to party to the clubs, we know it's Cinco de Mayo weekend. We know it's going to be turned up on Saturday. And we know DJs are looking for a new banger. And we know Vegas is going to be lit, right? Because
Right.
some people to Vegas for Cinco de Mayo. So that joint hits in enough time for all of the Vegas beach parties, all the clubs, all the DJs to digest it, figure out where they're going to put in their set. It's an undeniable club banger. DJs are posting videos of, yo, when the A minor dropped, here's what everybody did, and here's
Yeah, exactly.
OVO. And now Drake is sitting here like, well, I could have said, you did all this backpack stuff. I'm
Yeah.
gonna make a club banger, and everybody will ignore that. Instead, what happened was, I think he was stuck. He's like, I don't know if I can make, and this is no shade to Drake's ability to make club bangers. He makes club bangers all the time. I think the struggle for Drake was he's like, I don't know which way to respond now. We have this super lyrical Dark Alchemist disc ripping down my entire family, and we got a DJ Mustard club banger where he's calling me a pedophile the whole time and got people chanting, OVO and they not like us. And like, what do I respond to? Like, how do
Well,
I,
wait.
you know what I mean? It's a tough
Yeah,
thing.
100%. Well,
Um,
and it
yeah,
kind of gets to, sorry, it kind of gets to what I think we talked about in the last the last time we talked about this. I mean, just a few days ago. Again, this is all happening so quick, but like I feel like that month of April and March that Kendrick was quiet. I do think that he was probably plotting out like, okay, I'm gonna do. I feel like he had these records in the can like 2 weeks ago, and he probably has some more. Like it
I,
just seems like I don't think he was responding to this like this week. Like
yeah,
I think these were written like a few weeks back, And the reason he took his time was in order to lay this trap and to do it in this way, which if it is true, it might be the greatest diss
Yeah,
battle of all time. Like this,
yeah,
that's tall talk, but I
I
think
agree.
this might be
I
the
agree.
greatest diss battle we've ever seen.
I agree with you. I was telling my buddy that I came into it once I saw that this was brewing. I came into it expecting it to be Mayweather Pacquiao, with, in my opinion, Kendrick being Mayweather and Drake being Pacquiao, right? Like everybody liked the flashy offensive Pacquiao, the fact he was knocking people out, the fact he was going pound for pound. I get it, right? Like offense is way more fun to watch for most casual boxing fans. But I always, was saying, and the analogy is styles make fights, and that's what I'm going
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And
This is a great analogy. I love sports analogies. So yeah, we
so
all
yeah,
do. Yeah.
much like Kendrick, Mayweather dodges, slips, tires the other fighters out, and punches when he has to, when he feels like he's safe,
Yep.
when he feels like he has a plan. So he is using all of that time where he's doing his shoulder roll and making the fighter miss to
Billy
figure out
Shell, baby.
what the fighter's timing is, to figure out what the fighter's
Yeah.
weaknesses are. Essentially, because I've heard that famously he doesn't watch as much boxing tape as other people do. And the whole point of it is he's like, look, nobody has a plan to solve me.
Yeah.
So all I got to do is solve you, and because you're never going to
Yeah.
solve me. And that's why I told people, shout out to Pacquiao. I love my Filipino family. But I told people going in, Mayweather is going to win this. It might be close in the middle rounds, but Mayweather's going to win this. And
I mean,
essentially,
only because he runs away the whole time. I mean, come on, let's be frank.
so here's my thing about Mayweather. Mayweather,
And he waited
Mayweather
4 years
will knock
too
you
long to
out.
fight him. And he waited 4 years too long to fight him.
So, well,
And
but
he had a busted shoulder when he was
that was
fighting.
both, that was both camps. I think you've derailed it. Clearly, you're a Pacquiao fan, but
I am, yeah.
but I mean the problem is Drake was never built for that kind of fight. Like the critique
Yeah.
of Pacquiao was always he's got great offense, and his great offense usually keeps his deficiencies from being exposed. Because while he's having all this great offense, he's very bad at protecting himself. That was why the
Marquez, yeah.
was what it was, because Marquez was one of the better counter punchers
Yeah.
in time, and that's why
No,
Marquez knocked
he
him out.
got slept, and he was
So,
also demolishing Marquez up to that point, but he did
right.
get slept. That is true.
So to get back to the hip hop portion of it, essentially what I'm saying is it was two heavy, not heavyweights, but like whatever you want to call them, heavyweights, titans, champions, undeniable champions at arguably the top of their game, or somewhere in their prime, going head to head, going toe for toe. And I think if you're a hip hop fan, especially one that grew up watching no holds barred kind of battles, I think some of these newer fans are like, oh my God, like how could they say that? But for those of us that saw the Jay-Z, the Nas, the Biggie, the Pac, I mean, heck, wasn't Pac making fun of Prodigy having sickle cell and Mobb Deep? Like for those of us who, it is what it is. They decided to battle. They got to be ready for anything. Like I loved it. I agree with you. I think it was one of the best battles of all time. I think we got some of the best songs from Kendrick of his discography. If I'm being completely honest, I think
Yeah, well, that's
his best club.
Tall words. Just a few days in, man. But I agree. It has that feeling to it.
I was about to say, think about not like because think about how many club bangers Kendrick has, and I'm saying Kendrick has club bangers. You could probably make a top 10 list of like joints you can play in the club. Like my DJs out there watching this, feel free to put in the comments. I think you can name at least 10 Kendrick records that you can play in the club. I've heard Kendrick records in the club, and not just in the West Coast. Okay. But this one, I think it's one of his best club bangers with no features. Cause All the Stars, Scissors on the Hook, Pray for Me, Weekends on the Hook. This is all Kendrick, right? This is like similar to Swimming Pools or Humble, where it's all him. So I think we got one of his best club bangers. Definitely, in my opinion, one of his top 5 club bangers. And then we're just talking about, pure lyrical concept with like a beat, like Meet the Grams got to be up there. I think Euphoria is like standard Kendrick fare in terms of like, we know the beat's going to switch a couple times. Like he's going to do the voices, et cetera, et cetera. It was good.
Yeah.
616 was good as well. But I think Meet the Grams, in terms of like, if you wanted Kendrick to just really go on an Alchemist beat, like that nice, dirty, like that Kendrick, that Section 80 Kendrick, you got that. And I think if you wanted a club banger out of Kendrick, you got that.
Yeah.
So you got 2 of, to me, Kendrick's best songs, if not 3, depending on what you feel about the other ones, that we've gotten in a while. For those of you who are disappointed by N95, I think you got some bangers here that maybe make up for the shortcomings of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So that's kind of my take on it. I didn't feel like, I thought Push Ups was cool. I thought Family Matters was cool too. I think Drake towards the end there ran out of gas. I think Family Matters was what he thought was his kill shot. And I think he scrambled on the heart. It's just he kind of waves a white flag at the end, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, I know you got 10 diss records and, maybe I'll respond to you if you tell the truth. It all sounded really anticlimactic and defeated. So I think Kendrick's camp, from what I understand, is interpreting this as Drake essentially giving up on the battle. In a lot.
Yeah. Well, and again, the sequencing matters. The fact that he put out Euphoria and then followed it up with closed it off with the club banger, Not Like Us on Saturday Night. And to choose, because if he had done the club banger and then Euphoria, it wouldn't have hit the same way. And so, but that's what makes me think like it's intentional. He had these songs in the bag and he knew what he was doing.
Well, yeah, I think just to kind of wrap this up, because then we can kind of go into legacy and who won. I think we already kind of know who we think won. But I think the fact that Meet the Grams was so scathing and so vicious, it immediately took the night, because it was this dark Alchemist beat that Kendrick had been sitting on for years, apparently, and he's addressing to like different members of Drake's family, and then finishes up with Drake. And there's even an argument that he's, instead of saying Aubrey, that he's saying Harbury, like as in a portmanteau of Harvey Weinstein and Aubrey. So,
oh wow,
yeah, there's some levels even to and apparently the whole 11 thing is also a callback to Millie Bobby Brown, and apparently Drake having one-on-one dinners and texting Millie Bobby Brown when she was underage. It's kind of a call of that. So it was a very vicious, like a kill shot, where it was basically story of Adidon with even less respect. And everybody was so shocked, like, oh my God, like Kendrick's going here, that people forgot about Family Matters. It wasn't that Family Matters wasn't a good diss record, but then not only did he take that over, but then essentially, I'm with you, because Kendrick was like, the critique is I'd never make club bangers, and there's people who don't want to listen to diss records unless they're club bangers. Fine, I got you.
Exactly.
Drake, I just made a club banger about you. Everybody's going to be singing along to. You like being up in these clubs? Yeah? Well, you better roll up on these DJs and pay them not to play Not Like Us. Because if you just land in a cut, not being announced, you're going to hear it.
It wasn't, but it was lyrical. It was fun. It wasn't too, it wasn't too weird, but it still had those layers. Like even the again, down to the album cover. And then the I see dead people. Like when I heard that, I was like, oh,
right, which is great on 2 levels, right? Like I said, I killed you, but also essentially like Ghostwriters, like I see dead people, Ghostwriters.
Yeah. Oh man, I was like, when I heard that, I fell out, man. I was like, wow, this guy's really good. This guy should do rap for a living. He's really good at this rap thing.
Yeah. Huge. Like it was, but it was 2 different. It was like for people who are boxing fans, like it was like, you know, Canelo towards the 12th round in his fight this weekend.
Did you see the fight? I
Yeah,
saw the highlights.
there was a point at which like he basically had the guy hurt and dude was potentially about to fall down. And Canelo held him up like on some, you know what? This was the opposite. This was like I see he's about to go down on one knee, and I'm gonna hit that up like as he goes down.
Right.
And then, right. It was that
Like
when
Jorge Masvidal.
right, or when Mayweather two-piece to Ricky Hatton, right? Like remember when, and it was bam, and Ricky Hatton was like falling forward, and it was like, take this with you where you go, right? Like it was that.
Right,
it was I think Drake knew he lost, and I think that's why his delivery was so lackluster and so uninspired. And it's one of those things where I get it. Like J. Cole took the off ramp early in the battle. You can always take the off ramp if you realize you're not built for it or if you're losing. I think Drake fans, like hardcore Drake stans, you can't tell them anything because they will logic their way and you know, argue and emotion their way into somehow saying, oh, well, because Drake tricked Kendrick into thinking he's a like Drake like it's like there's no tricking. We saw the videos, dude. Like we, you know, like there's texts and DMs of people who were under 18 when they first got contacted by Drake. Like we know we saw the video of Wayne admitting Drake slept with his girl. We saw T.I.'s friend and T.I. talk about the time T.I.'s friend peed on him. So these are all actual factual occurrences that Kendrick is referencing. So the challenge is if I reference 4 or 5 things that we all know are true, and now I say this, and other people have receipts about you talking to girls this young, like, sorry, man, like we're like maybe it's not true, but it looks bad, and he's caught you on 4 or 5 things that held up. And so I gotta go with, in terms of legacy, I don't think it's going to impact Drake's legacy as a hit maker. I don't think it's going to impact Drake's legacy in terms of a charting artist. I think where Drake's impact is going to be weighed is a lot of people are trying to argue that he's one of the greatest of all time. And I think that's fine. But I think part of being the greatest of all time is if there was a battle, how did you do? Did you hold your own? You know, before we get into, you know, how many classic albums did you have? Like, what was the impact? Or like, what are the go-to bars? I think that's where Drake's legacy took a hit. I don't think that anybody else who's on the Mount Rushmore of hip hop, whatever your Mount Rushmore is, lost 2 significant battles in this way. And I feel like Drake lost to Pusha T and lost to Kendrick. And so I think that might hold him back from being the greatest of all time in that capacity. I think it helps Kendrick's legacy because we already know Kendrick can make classic albums. We already know Kendrick is critically acclaimed. We already know that he's one of the most talented in his era. But what the open question, I think, was, well, he doesn't always make club bangers. He has had some radio hits, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Not Like Us changed this and flips this. If Not Like Us becomes what I think a lot of DJs think it's going to become and what I think it's going to become, look at some of these crowd reactions, seeing these social media reactions. If this song runs all summer and, you know, people are making TikToks of this joint and A minor is like everywhere you go.
Yeah.
That's another club banger in Kendrick's can. That's another hit. You know, I mean, if this thing, don't let Not Like Us go to number 1. Like it resets the chessboard in terms of Kendrick's legacy out of his grouping, right? I still think it's early to try to say that Kendrick or Drake is the GOAT. I think there are a few things that need to happen before that. And I know it's a super subjective argument, but I think Kendrick strengthened his legacy by dropping 2 of his best records, in my opinion, of his discography in this battle.
Yeah.
I don't think anything Drake dropped was in the top of his discography.
Yeah. Yeah, which is
it was solid.
Yeah. No, it's to extend your sports metaphor, you know, in terms of like losing 2 major battles
Yeah.
And there, to be clear, there was a lot of pressure on Kendrick to respond, right? Especially waiting as long as he did, right? Basically a month. So I think if you want to extend the sports metaphor, it's like Kendrick showed up in the fourth quarter and performed like when he needed to. And I think that speaks to the legacy bit that you're kind of pointing to.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where just to kind of close this out, I think Kendrick has wanted this smoke since he dropped the Control verse, right? Remember, that was an iconic moment. I remember where I was when the Control verse hit. I remember him saying, "Tell Funk Master Flex to drop a bomb on this." I was in New York listening to Hot 97, and Funk Master Flex kept rewinding it and dropping a bomb on it. He was talking about he was the king of New York, and still, as an LA dude, and Funk Master Flex was still dropping a bomb on it because it was just so lyrical. It was like a declaration of like, if you ever really want it, I'm available. And
Yeah.
I just don't think you really want it. It's all competition, keep it friendly. I'm just telling y'all right now, if we ever take it there, I'm not scared. And when I do this, I'm trying to make you an afterthought. And I think he delivered. I think shout out to Drake for being brave enough to call his bluff. I understand that there is a sentiment out there that J. Cole was smart to take the off ramp because of how personal and cruel it got. If J. Cole felt like, hey, look, I don't want to have to get as personal and cruel as I would have to get to win this thing, and that was what he chose for his piece, that's fine. I still don't like the way that he bowed out, but a lot of people are saying because of what Kendrick did to Drake, and this is non-Drake stands. I'm sorry, Drake stands, if you're offended by this, but a lot of people are saying that J. Cole made the wisest decision to anybody. I disagree in that I've always thought of, competition, iron sharpens iron.
You want everybody to take part in the dunk contest, not just the bench players. You want the superstars of the league to take part in the dunk contest.
If people feel that way. So I think the thing about it is, if J. Cole really truly was like, that's my friend, I can't fight my friend. Like, okay, like it is what it is. Like he's a grown adult that, I think he probably saved his legacy. And I don't say that with shade to J. Cole. I think if J. Cole had stepped in this thing, I do think he would have probably taken some hits. And I don't think he's in a position where he can take the type of hits that Drake and Kendrick can. That's not shade to J. Cole. It's just I think J. Cole is he has his lane, like kind of that beloved by all, like hop in over here, hop in over there, do this guest spot, get back on the bike, go, find spiritual fulfillment, come back rap. You know what I mean? Like it's like he's like one step away from Andre 3000 at this point, in my opinion, in terms of like walking around with the flute. But yeah, when people say J. Cole might have won, you know who won, right? Like it's like let's be honest. I think Kendrick won this. I think Drake's commercial success is still secure. I think the GOAT argument has been changed forever. What do you think?
I agree. I think I mean he's Kendrick's I feel like he's been in the conversation for a while, and I feel like this just takes him up another notch. Not quite the Cavs coming back down 3-1 against the Warriors, but something in that vicinity where it's like that this is definitely, it feels like a shift in the conversation.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. If, and I don't know this for a fact, but if Kendrick has like a really good out, because he to me alternates between like he'll do an RT album, a commercial album, RT album, commercial album. Mr. Morale was the RT album. If Drake has if Kendrick has a commercial album that he is planning on dropping this summer, man, what a perfect setup. You know what I mean? Because like his streaming numbers are up. Everybody already likes Not Like Us. Don't let Not Like Us be the single to whatever the commercial album is. Like it's a wrap. Like don't let, Kendrick drop an album with probably even more Drake dishes, you know what I'm saying? And more commercial bangers similar to Damn. Right? Like, cause I think Damn was his most commercial album by design. Like,
Yeah.
don't drop another damn and not like us be the lead single with a fire video. Like, if you nail that video, oof. I mean, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
tough. I'm not saying Drake isn't one or two pop hits away from everybody forgetting about it, just like they moved on from Started
Yeah.
At It. But if
Right.
Kendrick drops an album like this summer, and it's like that commercial vein, it's like a damn two or whatever.
Right. And he wins album and song of the year or some version of that. I mean,
Yeah.
off the top of your head, how many Grammys do you think Kendrick has won versus Drake? I just looked it up. I didn't know it off the top of my head, but off the top of your head.
We're talking like not just album of the year. You're talking about like in
Just
total.
total
In
Grammys,
total, right?
total Grammy haul.
Okay, so I would say
Because I feel like this is a very
I would say
this is a
five.
good metric for what we're talking about in terms of greatest of all time.
All right, if I because I'm trying to remember how many joints Kendrick would have been eligible for because he was on Marshall Mathers too. Okay, so I would say Kendrick is at like 8 and Drake is at like 5. Am I crazy?
Kendrick's got 17
17. Okay.
and Drake has 5.
Okay, so I was right about Drake, but Kendrick has way more than I thought.
Yeah. Jay-Z's got 23.
Mm-hmm.
Kanye has 24. Meg Thee Stallion with 3. Good for you, Meg. Yeah,
Okay.
Drake's got 5. Nicki, none.
That is
Anyway.
surprising.
So anyway, yeah. I mean, again, I'm not usually the most champions in the sports world makes you the best, because I think it's more nuanced than that. But you can consider that in the discussion. You certainly have to consider that Jordan was 6-0 as an example in finals appearances versus LeBron, who's won 5.
Yeah.
But he's lost I forget what he is, but
Yeah,
there are other factors, but it is a factor that you have to look at.
I think he's 5-5. I think.
Yeah, something like that. Or 6-5 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because he has 6 yet. Brown doesn't have 6.
No,
Otherwise,
he's got 5. Yeah.
yeah, I was about to say. Otherwise, they would revisit the Jordan conversation. I think LeBron has to win another one to make.
Oh no, he's won 4 and competed in 10. He's 6-4.
No, 4 and 6. You mean?
Yeah, 4 and 6.
Yeah. So he's down, and he's lost more titles than he's won. Yeah. So yeah, to just kind of put a bow on this, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great for hip hop. I agree with you that it was the best hip hop battle of all time because we got some of the best songs, both in terms of where they stack up against other diss records all time, and also where they stack up in Kendrick's catalog in particular. Yeah. I feel like it went a little. It's kind of, we all thought Crawford Spence was going to be a good boxing match, and Crawford ended up washing Spence. That's kind of, I'm not going to say what happened here. I'd say it's the result. The result is somewhere between Mayweather Pacquiao, where Mayweather kind of dominated with ease without ever really putting himself at risk, and Crawford Spence in terms of, I really thought Drake would put up more of a fight after Family Matters, and I think he either had nothing left or he was like, this hurts too much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know I think his mistake that again, anybody can Monday morning quarterback this, right?
Yeah.
Hindsight is 2020. I think his mistake was feeling the need to respond right away. I think he didn't have, I think once that hit, I think he could have waited a little in the same way that Kendrick did, but I get it could go either way.
Here's my counter to that. I think if Drake had not brought families into either battle, he might have won both of these. If he hadn't mentioned Pusha T's fiance, if he had just kept it like you don't make enough hits to, and you need Kanye for this and that, and didn't ever mention Pusha T's family, he potentially could have won that battle. Because if you look at Story of Adidon, he's basically saying, look, you talked about my family. Now I have to take a battering ram to your whole family. And by the way, you got a deadbeat dad. What are we talking about? Or you're a deadbeat dad with a deadbeat dad. What are we talking about? Like, go raise your son. Stop. Like, go claim your little half porn star son. Leave me alone. Right? he opened the door. Drake opened the door. And the same thing with the Whitney comments, right? Like Drake was the first one to bring up Kendrick's baby mama, whatever you want to call her, like saying, you know, Whitney this and all right. Like you started talking about families, and you have to understand there's some people where it's like, all right, you dissed my family, I'm taking a batter ram to yours. Or you mentioned my family, everything's on the table. So I really thought he would learn, because we said this earlier, I thought he would learn from Adidon, don't mention the family and you might be okay.
I mean, it kind of it lends credence to my theory about the lack of ability to do it without doing that. That you could say that, but anyhow, I agree. Weird to say it so soon after. Recency bias notwithstanding, I think it was the greatest battle we've seen in ever, and certainly in a while. But good stuff, man. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for breaking down as always. Yeah. And we'll pick it up again, man. We'll get this out there and see what people think.
Yeah. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know in the comments who you think won. Obviously, we think Kendrick won, but we enjoy the music of both artists. So yeah, let us know who you think won. Comments and why, and tell us what you think the best diss song was. You know, for me, it was Meet the Grams, but I think the catchiest is Not Like Us of everything. Yeah.
And also, Nan and I are working on a playlist of what we think are the greatest, a list of all the songs that we've talked about so far on our Rap Beefs sort of series. So check out that Spotify playlist coming up soon. And we appreciate you. Thanks for listening. And until next time.